Hello, this is hopefully going to be bullshit number 2 video. A bit of a controversial subject, certainly in the United Kingdom. I'll just kick into it and we'll see how we get on. Any significant reduction, these are comments from the Guardian website. Comments from the general public. Any significant reduction in net migration is bound to have a positive effect on pay, job vacancies, housing, welfare and public services. So stop the niggers coming in and all will be lovely. According to a leading think tanks are bullshit pumps, basically. A third of all privately rented homes are occupied by non-UK citizens. So that's a third of all privately rented homes in the UK are occupied by non-UK citizens. A key reason, they say, the think tank, for rising rents and lack of affordable housing. When Britain leaves the EU, things can only get better. Right. So, other people don't like that sort of thing, but come up with a different idea on this. Somebody called Peppermint something or other says not building enough houses is the reason for the house price increases. So, Peppermint person thinks not building enough houses is the reason that house prices are going so madly up in the UK, or really down in the south east of the UK round London. And of course this is the bullshit video, so nobody's actually going to be right. It's just going to be somebody is going to be more righter than the other people's is. Okay, another one. Okay, somebody going against the chap that doesn't like the foreigners coming into the UK. I have no doubt it is simplistic logic like this that led you to voting Leave. That's Leave, that's Brexit. In other words, calling you a wanker. It's also why we should never have had a referendum, because it's ill-informed claptrap. In other words, don't have referenda because the public are too ignorant, except him who's writing this comment, presumably. What you are talking about is the structural cause of housing shortage and or homelessness. According to Shelter, the structural causes are, so Shelter, we'll call them another think tank, they're an active lot, but call them another think tank, so pumper of bullshit. As in bullshit, it can be political or political. Political with a big P, as in politics, as in party politics, or political with a little p, which is social etiquette. Please don't at this dinner party say that immigrants are not welcome, because that's not welcome conversation. That's politics with a small p. So, Shelter say the structural causes for the housing shortages are, in a list of from biggest to going down, presumably, unemployment, poverty, a lack of affordable housing, housing policies, the structure and administration of housing benefit, wider policy development such as the closure of long-stay psychiatric hospitals. So that's what Shelter says the reason the shortage of housing is, and they appreciate the shortage of housing is pushing up the prices. Unemployment comes not because of immigrants, but due to a lack of qualifications. Should go to school more, and skills, so you should get an apprenticeship. There are over 750,000 vacancies unfulfilled due to skill shortages. In other words, lots of vacancies for jobs and things. Why haven't all the plucky Brits filled these vacancies? Question mark. Probably because they're absolutely shit jobs with shit pay. But it's only an idea. Your post and your opinion is so ill-informed it beggars belief. Righto. Somebody else comes in. Increasing the population by millions has no part to play in it then. One of those question marks where they say it's got nothing to do with it then, eh? And anybody says, you know, these rip it over to completely one side and say, oh, it's got nothing to do with it then, is such pathetically bad argumentation that they'll get the bullshit award most certainly. The rise in the UK population is not due to immigration alone, you know. In fact, it represents a tiny percentage of the growth. I think population growth is the problem. I presume you will want all... If you think population growth is the problem, I presume you want to include Chinese-style limits on the number of kids people can have. So this fellow, June 1959, is definitely a bullshitter, because he's just wanged it over to one side and said, oh, you know, nothing to do with it. That's what you're saying. And then says, right over on another side, says, presumably you want one-child policies like the Chinese. But his main thing is the rise in the UK population is not due to immigration alone, you know. In fact, it represents a tiny percentage of growth. So somebody comes back to him and says, 2016, UK population increase in 2016, 525,000, 500,000, which I think the population of the UK used to always be about 60 million, but I think it has gone up due to things. So it might be about 63, 64. So it's gone up 500,000 in 2016. UK net immigration was 248,000, so half of the increase could be attributed to net immigration. And as he points out, that's 40% and 47%, and asks, is that a tiny percentage? So did we want to do any more down here? No, I think that's, yeah, I decided not to do those. Somebody down below said, basically didn't understand what net means, but we'll leave that. I'm sure we all know what net means. So the bullshit is in here. That fellow that says 47% tiny percentage, if those are the facts, population increase was 500,000, net immigration was 250,000, that's not a tiny percentage. So whoever said it was a bullshitter. It was June that said it, so he's a bullshitter. And I think Shelter are bullshitters for not putting immigration in their list of top 6 things that are affecting housing. To omit that is either political with a big P or political with a little p. But it's a political, therefore, bullshit, because it's lying, it's distortion of the facts, so it's bullshit. And so up at the top here, we've got basically sale and demand. I mean, demand and productivity and demand. What's it? Amount of things available and demand for them. So we've got that. Not enough houses being built is either the problem, or there are too many people wanting houses. Supply and demand, that's the thing. So you can look at this now. Oh, I didn't want to do this, but let's see, we've gone here. Basically, if house prices are going up, there's either too much demand or not enough supply. If there's too much demand, can the government, as in, now we ask ourselves, should the government do anything about either the supply or the demand? And I think the government should only do something about it if it is a big problem for the country. As in, it might be a problem, but if it's not a big problem for the country, should the government get itself involved? Now, it's a big problem, but is it a big problem for the country? that there is not enough housing. As in, not building enough houses is the reason for the house price increases. Should the government build more houses, or should they leave it to the capitalist open market, free market, that if there's such a demand for houses, then normally the free market would build the houses to sell to the people that want the houses. The problem that everyone has got, not just the government here, is that the private sector aren't building the houses because the people that want the houses haven't got the money. They're poor people that want houses. So the private sector won't build the houses for them. So should the public sector, should the government build the houses for them, or what? And again, I go back to, unless it's a big problem, the government shouldn't really get itself involved greatly, as in, should the government build new city loads of houses? It's very tricky. But to ignore the fact that a lot of the renting and the wanting to buy is from immigrants who the rent, it's getting too complicated. So what should they do? The government build more houses? Or should the government encourage the private sector to build more houses? Should the government, as they have been doing, give younger people incentives, financial incentives to buy more houses, as in get on the housing ladder? Or should the government use its power in some way to pull a few rungs out of the housing ladder so it all drops down a bit, so more people can afford houses at more affordable rates, and then presumably the rents will come down as well. Have you solved the problem? If so, comments below. Watch out for bullshit. Bye.